This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So yesterday, is my voice is audible and clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. No problem. Right. So yesterday we have discussed about sorted internal table. We understood the difference between standard and what sorted internal table. We have one more internal table, that is what Ash internal table. So let's see how to work with Ash internal table. So I'll go to this is a new server. So the old programs are not there. So let me retype it. As internal table, type of program is executed. Right. So as usual, first I'll create the structure by using what types keyword. So types begin of ty_emp. I'll declare some fields here. Employee number type I, employee name of 20, type C. Another field I'll take employee designation of something 25, type C. I'll close this structure end of ty_emp. So based on this structure, let us declare what internal tables. Okay, I'll declare the Ash internal table. So I'll say data. I'll give the name of the internal table as t_emp, type Ash table of. So earlier we have seen for standard internal table, the key specification, the key declaration is what optional. In case if you are declaring the key, it supports only what non-unique. And if you take a sorted internal table, yesterday we have seen for sorted internal table, key declaration is mandatory, and we understood that it supports both unique as well as what non-unique. Now let us declare this Ash internal table. So I'll say type Ash table of, okay, data t_emp, type Ash table of, what is the type name ty_emp, right? So I'm not declaring any key here. Let's see what happens when I do syntax check. Yes, we got an error. The key specification is incomplete. Generic specification is only completed for what standard tables, means only for standard tables I can declare it without any key. So here it is giving an error. So this is ruled out. This is giving the syntax error. Next I'll say data t_emp, type Ash table of. Let me try to give non-unique key. With non-unique key, what is this? Employee number. Non-unique key employee number. So when I'm trying to declare Ash internal table with non-unique key, when I do syntax check, yes, it is giving an error. Hashed keys must be unique. Hashed keys must be unique. The unique addition must be specified for what Ash table. So this is also ruled out. So what is the meaning? Ash internal table doesn't support what? Non-unique. It supports only unique. Okay, so here I'll say type what? hash table of so and so with unique key employee number. Okay, so when I do syntax check, I don't have any errors. So what is the difference? For standard, key declaration is optional. For sorted and hashed, key declaration is mandatory. Difference between sorted and hashed is sorted supports both the non-unique as well as unique, whereas hashed supports only what? Unique. So as usual, this is an internal table without header. It is an internal table without header. So I require what? A separate work area. So let me declare the work area. W underscore emp type what? Ty underscore emp. No errors done. Right. So what is the concept of hash internal table is it doesn't support, okay, it doesn't support explicit or implicit index operations. Hash internal table doesn't support explicit or implicit index operation. It always works with keys. It will follow what hash algorithm it seems. So according to that algorithm, it requires what the unique keys. So hash internal table doesn't support explicit or implicit index operations. It supports only what? Key concept. Okay, so let's see what is the meaning of explicit or implicit index operation. So what is that I told? Hash internal table doesn't support explicit or what? Implicit index operations. Doesn't support explicit or implicit index operation. What are the examples for explicit index? In what are the places where we use the index? We use what? Read with index. So this is not supported. This comes under what? Explicit index, where we are specifying the index position. So read with index. Next, what? Read with index. What else? Insert with index. Insert with index also is not supported. These two comes under what? Explicit index. Okay. Similarly, if you take implicit index, what are the examples for implicit index? Append. Append means what is the point we know about append? Append will always adds the record to the end, na? To the end. So indirectly we are telling the position to add the record to the end of the internal table. So this append also is not supported. Next, what else? What else is not supported? What are the other cases where implicit index will be used? Read with binary search. Read with binary search means what is the concept of binary search? We are we are instructing SAP to start searching for the record from the middle of the internal table. Okay, so indirectly we are telling the position. So this also comes under what? Implicit index. What are the other places where implicit index will come into picture? Yes, read with binary search. Yeah, is my voice is audible now? Hello, is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. There is some connection lost in the go-to meeting. Fine. Right. So what we are trying to do here, hash internal table. So server got disconnected. I think I need to redevelop it. Right. So here I created the type structure. Based on the type structure, I declare the hash internal table with what unique key doesn't support non-unique. And since it is an internal table without header, as usual, I require what work area. Done. Let us fill the data. So what is the procedure? First, you have to assign the data to the work area. From work area, we have to add it to the internal table. So I'll assign some data here. W underscore EMP for employee number, W underscore EMP for employee name, EMP for employee designation. I'll add some data. So earlier for standard and sorted, we are using either append statement or insert statement. Now here I'll try to use append. Append W underscore EMP to table T underscore EMP. Append W underscore EMP to T underscore EMP. Okay, let's see whether it's supported or not. Save it, check for the syntax. Good. You can see I got the error in the 20th line. What is the error we got here? You cannot use explicit or implicit index operations on tables with typed what? Hash table. So this append comes under what? Append comes under implicit index because indirectly we are telling the position. Indirectly we are telling the position. So append is not supported on what? Hash internal table. This is ruled out. So let me comment it. This is syntax error. Right. Now I'll try to use insert. Insert W underscore EMP to what? T underscore EMP. I'll say index 1. I'm trying to use an insert statement with the index addition. When I do syntax check, yeah, okay. Insert W underscore EMP into, yeah, save it, check for the syntax. Yeah, I got the same error na, in the 21st line. What is that? You cannot use explicit or implicit index operation. So this explicitly we are telling the position na? So we are using insert with index. Insert with index also is not supported because it comes under what? Explicit index. So this is also ruled out. Okay, this also is giving what? Syntax error. So how do we add the data to the hash internal table? You have to say insert W underscore EMP into table. What is the internal table? T underscore EMP. Save it, check for the syntax, no errors. So this is the only way to add the data to the hash internal table. What is that? Insert without index. Insert without index. Okay, like this, let us add some data here. I'll add some data. I'll use the same insert statement. I'll add some records. Employee tab. Okay, employee number, I'll give something 11. I'll give the employee number 17. Some designation. Some data. Okay. So I got the I've inserted the data into what? Hash internal table. So what are the points understood? We must provide the key declaration at the time of declaring the hash internal table. It supports only what? Unique key. Supports only unique key. Now what I'll do is, yeah, this is the data available. Let me try to print it. So I'll say data in what? T underscore EMP. I'll try to loop and display. Already we know all these things. Again, I'm not explaining this. I'll say right. What is this? W underscore EMP hyphen employee number, then employee hyphen employee name, then EMP hyphen employee designation. I'll close end loop. Right. So when I execute, yeah, I got the data. What are the employee numbers here? 6, 16, 11, 17, and something what? 10. So this hash internal table is declared with the unique. Na? Unique means what? It doesn't accept what? Duplicate values. So what I'll do is wantedly, I'll try to, what is the key field I gave here? Employee number is the key field. And what kind of key? Unique. Unique means what? Doesn't accept duplicate values. So I'll try to insert 16 is already there somewhere here. I'll try to insert one more record, employee number 16. I'll give the employee name as something something Srini. Okay. So what is that? Key field is employee number. Again, we are trying to insert the same employee number 16. Let's see what happens. When I execute, yeah, what happened here? The duplicate record not inserted. So what is the meaning here? Azure internal table supports only unique key, and keys must always be unique. It cannot be duplicate. Even if you try to insert duplicate entries, it will not accept. It will just ignore that particular duplicate record. That's why 16 Srinivas is ignored. It is not inserted. Right? Any questions up to this point? Okay. Yeah, stop me if any question. So we are able to insert the data into the Azure internal table, and we understood that it doesn't support explicit or implicit index operations. Now, earlier cases, we have seen a read statement on what standard internal table as well as sorted internal table. And in both the cases, all three types of searches are satisfied. Na? What is that? Indexed search is satisfied, linear search is satisfied, as well as what binary search also is supported. Okay. So let's see whether this particular Azure internal table supports those operations or not. So I'll take a work area. Why I require work area? Because read always reads what? Single record. Okay, so read table. Yeah, here I'll try to use a read statement. Read table. What is the internal table? T underscore emp into W underscore emp. Assume that I am interested to read the third record. So I know the position. So I'll try to use what? Index what? 3. But what is the behave? What is the concept of hash internal table? It doesn't support explicit or implicit index operations. So we are trying to use read with index. Na? Read with index. This should not be supported. Explicitly, we are telling the position. This is not supported. So when I do syntax check, I got the same error, 64th line. You cannot use explicit or implicit index operations on tables of type what? Hash table. So this is ruled out. This is giving me what? Syntax error. Now let me say read table T underscore EMP into what? W underscore EMP. Okay, with the key. Always the search is performed on key. With the key, what is that key? I'll say employee number equal to something 16. So already we know the read statement. If the read is successful, the data will be populated to work area and it will set the system field size of RC to what? 0. So if size of RC is equal to 0, if size of RC equal to 0, I'll say write record is successfully read. Record is successfully read. I'll try to print it, right? I'll say W underscore EMP hyphen what? Employee number. W underscore EMP hyphen employee name. W underscore EMP hyphen employee designation. Else I'll say no data. No data. I'll say what? End if. Read table T underscore EMP into W underscore EMP done. So I'm trying to read based on the key. Na? So let's see whether it works or not. I'll give some color here. Yeah, when I do syntax check, no errors. F8. Yes, you can see. I got that record now. Understood. I got that record. Employee number is 16. Employee name is Ashok, and the designation is what? Something employee. Am I clear? So read with the key is what? Supported. Read with key is supported. Now I'll say I'll try to use read. I'll try to use read with binary search. So binary search also means what? Indirectly we are telling the position. Okay, so one second, just hold on.
This conference will now be recorded.
Right, so where we are, so I'll try to use a read statement with what? Binary search. Binary search means what? Indirectly we are telling SAP to start searching the record from the middle. Already we have seen that linear search and binary search. This comes under what? Linear search, which is supported. This comes under what? Indexed search, because we are searching based on what? Index, which is not supported in case of Azure internal table. So same thing I'll try to use. The only change I'll try to do is here I'll try to use addition what? Binary search. Binary search. This should not be supported. Na? And what is the prerequisite for binary search? The data should be not sorted order. We are searching based on employee number. Na? So yesterday we have seen sort statement is not supported on what? Sorted internal table. Sort is supported only on what? Standard internal table. Explicitly we cannot use sort statement on the sorted internal table. So here I'll say sort, what is the internal table? T underscore EMP by what? Employee number. So when I do syntax check, no error. So what is the meaning? I can use sort command on what? Azure internal table. Now let me try to use read with the binary search. It should not be supported. So when I do syntax check, yes, I got the same error in the 77th line. You cannot use explicit or implicit index operation. So this comes under what? Binary search, and this is not supported. Syntax error. So on the Azure internal table, we can only use what? Linear search, or we call it a sequential search. It doesn't support indexed search and what? Binary search. Okay, so when I do syntax check, no errors. That's it. Clear? Only linear search is supported. I got that particular record, 16 Ashok and Empa. So if you see the overall differences between what? Standard, sorted, and what? Azure internal tables. Let me open that. Yeah. So if you focus on the third column, Azure internal table, what is that? Key specification is what? Mandatory. Key specification is mandatory. Supports only what? Unique key. That's what we have seen. Explicit sort supported. Supports only what? Linear search. Only insert statement without index position is what? Supported. That's what we have seen. Right? So these are the differences between standard, sorted, and Azure internal table. So when we are declaring the internal tables in our project, when we are declaring the internal tables, no one will tell us, which internal table type we have to use. It is developer choice whether to use standard, sorted, and Azure. The recommendation is for huge volume of data, for huge volume of data, it is recommended to use what? Hash internal table. Am I clear? For huge amount of data, it is recommended hash internal table. Why? Because if you take standard or sorted, it is generally recommended for what? Less volume of data. When I say less volume of data, it is a general recommendation around 5,000 records or so. It is better to go for what? Standard or what? Sorted internal table. Am I clear? But if it is more than that also, still I can use standard. But for huge volume of data, when you're processing what? Large amount of data, it is recommended to go for what? Hash internal table. So why? Because just observe here. Suppose, for example, I'm saying, assume that I declared one standard internal table. Try to understand. I declared one standard internal table. Initially, this internal table, has got some 100 records. Try to understand. It has got 100 records. So I will use read on what? Standard internal table. What is the purpose of read statement? What is the purpose of read statement? It is for reading a specific record. So out of 100 records, when I'm searching for a record, I assume that it has taken some 2 milliseconds of time. For example, I'm saying. Now later on, assume that my standard internal table has got some what? Around 1,000 records. So now when I try to use a read statement, on the same standard internal table, the time taken would be around 3 milliseconds. For example, I'm saying. Then suppose assume that in the same standard internal table, assume that I'm having 10,000 records. So, or 1 lakh records, for example. So time taken to read a record is around what? 5 milliseconds. So what I'm trying to show here is, when the amount of data is growing, the time taken to search for a record is also will change. So it is directly proportional to what? The amount of data. This is the same case either with standard or with what? Sorted. Okay, either with standard or sorted, it is the same case. Am I clear? But it seems if you take hash internal table, assume that initially I am having what? 100 records, for example. If I use a read on hash internal table, assume that it has taken some 4 milliseconds. Now later on, assume that this hash internal table has got some 10,000 records. At that time, when I use read statement, okay, it is again what? Same 4 milliseconds. So it is always constant. It is not dependent on what? Amount of data. So because of these things, it is as a best practice for larger volumes of data where you are performing more read operations and less write operations. It is recommended to go for what? Hash internal table. Okay, if you have more write operations and less read operations, we'll go for what? Standard. So in the real time, which one we use means, my answer is both. We'll be using both. For smaller amount of data, we may go for what? Standard. Suppose assume a scenario where we have developed a report where we are fetching the data from a database table. So far what you are doing, we are filling the data within the program. In all the last 1 week, we are preparing the internal table within the program. But generally what I told, the data in the internal table will be retrieved from what? Database table. So when we discuss select statement, we'll see. So when you are pulling huge amount of data for reporting purpose, at that time it is recommended to go for what? Hash internal tables. Okay. So again, when I say 5,000 records, doesn't mean that if I try to store 10,000 records, will standard will not work. It will have 1 lakh record also, it will work. But the amount of time taken to read a record is always dependent on what? Amount of data. So if it is not if you don't want the dependency, better to go for what? Hash internal tables. Yeah. Any questions so far? So sorted means, when do we go for sorted means, when you want to restrict the sorting on a particular field, means while adding the data itself, if you want the data to be arranged in an order based on a particular field, then we'll go for sorted. So as per my knowledge and experience, mostly we'll use either standard or hashed. Okay, but still we have the option to use what? Sorted internal table, because if I go for sorted, we'll have the restrictions. We cannot sort it on what? Other fields. Yeah, any questions so far? Right. So directly what we have done is, in the last 4-5 session, what is the standard way of declaring the internal tables? We are creating the structure. This is nothing but a template. What are the fields you want? Based on that fields, you'll create the template. And based on that template, you'll create the internal work area. This is a new way of declaring the internal table. But there is another syntax. There are many syntaxes. We'll discuss one by one. There is one old syntax which we can also use now also, but generally for the new implementations, better to go for this approach. Whatever we are doing so far, this is the recommended way of declaring internal table. Let us see one example on old syntax. Why we should know that in this, already I told you, when you're working in the support projects, means already the customer is running his business on SAP from so many years. So in that implementations, developers might have used what? Old syntax. So whenever there's a requirement for doing some changes, I should be able to understand the old syntax also. That is the reason we'll be using both old as well as new according to our requirement. So let us go for an example on old syntax. Yeah, type of program is executable program. Right. So what is the old syntax means? You'll say data begin of, I'll give some name like EMP. I'll say employee number type I, employee name of 20 type C, and I'll say employee designation of something 25 type C. If I leave it like this is called as what? Yes, already we discussed. This is called as what? Already we discussed this syntax. Yes, already we discussed this 1 week back only. This is called as what? Yes, anyone?
Declaring local structures.
Structures, good. Okay, this is nothing but a structure. And we know a structure can store only what? A single record. A structure can store only single record. Already we have discussed this 1 week back only. Right. But what I want here, I want to declare an internal table. So I'll say data begin of EMP. I will use an addition called as occurs something 0. Occur 0. Let me save it. Check for the syntax. One second. I'll change the network. Just hold on, please. I'll change the network. I'm taking the sessions from a remote place. So I need to switch this networks. One second. Yeah. Right. What is the earlier program? 30, na? So I'll go for 31. Yeah. So here I'm using what occurs keyword. Let's see what is the meaning of this occurs. Let us see whether any documentation available for this. Okay, I'll put the cursor on this occurs keyword. I'll press F1. I'll press F1. Okay, so that I'll get the online documentation. Yeah, occurs. You can observe this carefully here. What they are saying here, absolute. Absolute means what? In Java, we call them as deprecated. Deprecated means they are old way of doing it. Currently, they are supported, but in future, it may not be supported. Am I clear? Absolute in ABAP context, we call it as absolute. Absolute means what? Currently it is supported. In future, SAP may not support. In Java and .NET environment, we call them as deprecated methods. Okay, so this absolute means the recommendation is don't use it. Currently it is supported. In future, SAP may not provide this statement. That's the reason. Let's see the documentation. I'll double click on this. Yeah, it will take some time to load the documentation. Yeah, it has loaded the documentation. Effect, what is saying here? Let's see this occurs. Absolute syntax. I'll just click on this. Yeah, data begin of occurs. I'll just double click on this. Begin of item occurs so and so. Okay. I'm just trying to read this. Yeah, you can see this. All these are absolute only. They're all absolute these things. Okay, so let me click on this properly. Let me check this. Just want to show you any information is there. Yeah, observe this carefully. Data begin of item occurs n. We have to give a value for n. What is the value I gave? 0, na? So observe here. What they are saying here, the data object n, which has to be specified either directly as a numeric literal or as a numeric constant, determines the initial memory requirement. Determines the initial memory requirement. So what happens here is, whenever we say occur 0, this is considered as internal table with default header. If you observe the earlier syntaxes, we have the provision to create it either with header or without header. If you want to create with header, what you are saying? Type. We are creating the type structure. Then we are saying the data so and so with header line. So when I say with header line, it is created as what? Default header. If I don't use that with header line, we have taken what separate work area. But this syntax always creates an internal table with default header. Internal table with what? Default header. So this syntax doesn't allow us to declare the internal table without header. It is always with what? Default header. Am I clear? So default header is not supported in what? Object oriented. That is the reason it is become what? Absolute, deprecated. So what is this 0 means? What is the documentation saying? Initial memory means initially 8 KB of memory will be allocated to your internal table. What is the initial memory? 8 KB. So when I say 8 KB, doesn't mean that we can store only 8 KB of data. We can store more than 8 KB also, but the initial memory is what? 8 KB. Okay, so when that 8 KB of memory is utilized, automatically memory increases by another 8 KB. It becomes how much? 16 KB. If you have utilized 16 KB of data, automatically another 8 KB will be added. It becomes what, 24 KB. So 0 indicates what here, 8 KB. Every time it will increase the memory by how much memory? Initial memory. What is the initial memory? 8 KB. Suppose if I say occurs 1, the initial memory will be 16 KB. 16 KB. If that 16 KB is utilized, it will automatically increase by another 16 KB. It becomes 32 KB. Then it becomes 48 KB, like that. Suppose if I say occurs 2, initial memory is what, 24 KB. Then it becomes 48. Then it becomes 72. Every time it increases by what? 24 KB. And this syntax is always considered as what? Internal table with default header. So something like this, the memory is allocated. Okay, so this is your body area, this is your header area, this is your header area, and you can see here occurs 0 means what? Initial memory is what? 8 KB, then it becomes 16 KB, then it becomes like that. Automatically the memory will be extended with the amount of what? Initial size. Suppose if I say occurs 2, okay, if I say occurs 2 here, what happens? The initial memory would be how much? Would be 24 KB. Initial memory would be 24 KB. Okay, once the 24 KB is utilized, 24 KB becomes what? 48 KB. If that 48 KB is utilized, it becomes what? 72 KB. Like that, the extension will continue. And what is the other problem with this syntax is, there is a possibility of memory wastage. Means if I say occurs 0, how much memory is allocated initially? 8 KB of memory will be allocated. Na? I may or may not utilize that 8 KB of data. So if you are not utilizing 8 KB of data, what happens? Memory will be wasted. Na? Okay, in the earlier syntaxes, what happens? Depending on the data we are trying to store, the memory will be automatically extended. But in this case, there is a static allocation of memory. So there is a possibility of what? Memory wastage. In the earlier cases, we are not using any occurs keyword. Dynamically, the memory will be allocated depending on the data we store. That is why we always go for what? The previous syntax. But here also, this is considered as what? Enter with the default data. Na? So how do we assign the data? First you set the data to the header. From header you append it. emp-employee number equal to 5. emp-employee name equal to, I'll say something Raju. emp-employee designation equal to something manager. And so where this assignment will be done? So this clear statement clears what? Header. Why it clears header? Because this is the internal table with the default header. Na? We are assigning the data to the header. From header, I'll copy it to the body. Append what? EMP. That's all. Repeat this process for the rest of the records. So I'll say something 15. Something like this. Okay, so I got the date. I'm appending some data. How do you display it? Same loop statement. So data in what? EMP. I'll say loop at t underscore EMP into what? I'm sorry. Loop at EMP. This is the internal table with the default header. Na? Default header. So loop at EMP. And here I'll say write EMP for employee number, EMP for employee name, EMP for employee what? A designation and loop. So let me save, check for the syntax, execute this. Yes, I got the data. Okay, so this syntax is always considered what? Internal table with default header. If I try to debug, observe this carefully. Right, so I'm just what? Putting the breakpoint there. When I execute, yeah, if you see this internal table, it has stopped there. If you see this internal table EMP, it is showing the cap symbol here. What is this cap symbol indicates? It is an internal table with a default header. Understood? Default header. So this is the body which has got 0 records. How many fields are there? 3 fields. Okay, 3 fields are there. If you see the content, as of now, I don't have any data. It is blank. There is no content. I am having what? 0 record. So I am assigning the data. So if you see here, EMP for employee number equal to 0, EMP for employee name equal to space, EMP for designation equal to space. Understood? You will have the default values in the header. That's what I represented here. What you will have in the header? 0, space, and what? So and so. So this is nothing but what here? Default header. This is a default header, and this is your internal table body, which can accommodate what? Multiple records. Right? So I'm assigning the data. When I say F5, yeah, 0 will be overwritten with 5, space is overwritten with Raju, space is overwritten with manager. So I got one record in the header. Append EMP means what it will do? It will try to append the data from default header to the body of the internal table. As of now, my internal table is blank. I don't have any data. So when I say F5, yeah, it might have appended. So you can see here, I got one record. If you see the content here, yes, I got one record. 5 Raju and what? Manager. Very clear. 5 Raju and manager. So I'll say F5. Again, I'm clearing the data in the work area. Understood? This clear statement clears the header part. Again, I'm assigning the data. Again, we are appending. F5. So I got the second record. So if you see the internal table, if I click on this body symbol, yes, it has taken the control to the tables tab. I got the second record, 50 Karan and what? Manager. Okay. I'm not interested to debug the further steps. I'll directly put the breakpoint on the 34th line. So in the debugging mode, I'll double click on the left hand side on the 34th line. Breakpoint is set. So when I say F8, what happens now? Control directly jumps to the next breakpoint in the queue. So when I say F8, yes, the control has directly jumped to what? 34th line. By this time, it has filled all the 4 records. Yes, I'm having what? All the 4 records. Is it clear? I'm having all the 4 records. I'm looping it. So when I loop here, what happens? Each record will be populated from body to what? Header. Each record is populated from body to header. So 5 Raju manager will be populated to the header. So when I say F5, yes, you can see the header record now 5 Raju and manager. Since it is successfully populated from body to header, it has entered the loop. I'm printing it. Okay, I got the first record. So when I see the output here, miscellaneous display list, I got the first record. Like this will iterate how many times? 4 times. When I say F5, done F5, second record is iterated. I'm trying to print the second record. Miscellaneous display list. What is that? Second record. So I'm not interested to debug further. I'll say F8. I got the whole records. Right. So any questions in this part? So why it is recommended not to use this syntax is it is not supported in object oriented, and in this syntax there is a static allocation of memory. There is a possibility of what? Memory wastage. Okay, because of this reason it is recommended not to use this particular syntax. As of now it is supported, it is absolute. In future versions SAP may not support this syntax. That's why try to avoid from now only. Any questions? Rest of the statements are same. Read, modify, I can use all of them here. Acha, here only inside the loop, while printing my internal table fields, I'll try to print a system field called as sci-tabix. Sci-tabix. Already I told you, the index of the internal table starts from where? 1. The index of the internal table starts from 1. Okay, so each time when the loop is iterated, I'm trying to print that position. I'll try to give some color here, color 3. So just observe the change when I execute. Yes, I got the index position now 1, 2, 3, 4. So sci-tabix is a system field which can be used to refer to the position in the internal table. Okay, so how do you count the number of records? I'll declare one variable, data v underscore count type I. I'll say v underscore, already we have seen that. I'll say lines. What is the internal table here? EMP. Yeah? Okay, I'll say write data in what? Data in EMP or number of records, sorry. Number of records in EMP. What is that variable? V underscore count. Okay, so when I print it, lines function, what it will do? It counts the number of records in the internal. What is the count value I got? 4. Right? I want to clear this data. This is the internal table with the default data. Na? So already we have seen that, but on the second, this syntax also, I'll say clear. If I simply say EMP, this clears the default data. Na? I want to clear the body. So I'll use this symbol. This clears what? This clears what? This clears a body area. This clears a body area. Okay. Let me count it now. After counting, again, I'm printing it. So I'll say color 1 here. I should get 0 now because we have cleared the data. Na? So when I say F8, yes, number of records in EMP is what? 0. I got 0 records. Right. So this is how you work with the old syntax. Any questions here? Okay, so if you see this internal tables concept, as I told you, I'll not follow the syllabus sequence. It is not possible to follow the syllabus sequence. So we have discussed almost all these basic statements, I believe. We have discussed the practical part will start from this part only. Na? So we have discussed all this basic statements. We have seen some string functions, not all. We have seen only few, like translate. We have seen concatenate, I think, and we have seen what string length. Okay, only few string functions we have seen, and then what we did, we discussed what this local structures. We are done with this, and we have not discussed what dictionary objects. I have not discussed this. Without this, directly we went to what internal tables. So in these internal tables also, so far we have not covered all the things. Suppose select options and ranges is there. I cannot cover this at this stage. It has got some dependency. When we get into database programming, we'll be seeing the select options and what ranges. And we have seen append, describe, read, modify, sort, clear, refresh, free, delete, transporting, collect also we have not seen. This will come under reports. Okay, so as and when required, we'll be discussing these options. Collect statements, select options, and what ranges. So we are done with most of the internal tables concept. Okay. Most of the internal concept we have done. Tomorrow what we'll do is I'll start with a new concept. As I told you tomorrow, uh, I may start the session at the morning only for tomorrow. I thought of taking the session at 6:15. I have not yet confirmed on that. I'll do one thing. About tomorrow's session, whether I'll take at morning 6:15 or at same time 8:30, I'll confirm through email. Okay, I'll confirm through email. Okay, by today evening. By today evening 5 p.m. I'll confirm. Understood? About tomorrow's session, I'll confirm today evening through email to everyone by 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Indian time. Is it clear? Tomorrow class will be there. Whether it is at 6:15 or 8:30, I'll communicate through email by 5 p.m. because I need to coordinate with other participants also about their availability, right? So only for tomorrow, this is the plan. I'll communicate, I'll finalize by evening 5 p.m. Okay. If I don't take the class in the morning 6:15 tomorrow, if I take at same time 8:30, I'll start with a new topic. New topic. In case if I take the class at 6:15, I want to take some miscellaneous concept which is not dependent on any other topic. Whatever we have discussed so far, it is not dependent on that. It is a miscellaneous concept. So that I'll discuss, I'll decide accordingly. So please check your mails after 5 p.m. Okay, done. Right, so I'm done for today's session. We'll continue tomorrow. Any queries before I log off? Right, about tomorrow, I repeat once again, those are not listening. About tomorrow's session, I'll confirm through email by today evening 5 p.m. Please check your mails after 5 p.m. Indian time. Right, thank you everyone. We'll continue tomorrow.